So what are we doing in this episode?
That's a good question. So we could recreate the episode we lost.
Yeah,
We
so
could talk about other things as well.
so for our listeners, Eric records directly into Final Cut and I just record into GarageBand and then send Eric my track. But when we recorded a podcast about our allergies, I forgot to turn the metronome off. So when Eric imported my audio and tried to edit it, it was just a metronome the entire time.
You know what else we haven't done for multiple episodes?
Clapped.
Yep. At least now doing FaceTime on my computer, there doesn't seem to be a delay anymore.
That's good. So if we don't re-record the episode that we lost, what else were you thinking?
Just continuing to talk about current events. You need to put your phone on Do Not Disturb or something.
I'm just so popular.
That makes one of us.
I'm actually just in several group chats, and my group chats are going crazy because someone tested positive for coronavirus at one of the Walmarts, like an employee, and the managers aren't doing anything about it.
Interesting. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, I don't go to that particular Walmart often. I don't go to Walmart super often. It's not convenient.
It's not the most fun place in the world either. Any Walmart. Well, that's not entirely true. When I was still living on campus at the seminary, there was a grocery store that was a Walmart neighborhood market, and it was just groceries. It wasn't anything else. And I think it was the closest grocery store to campus. So I would just go over there, and it didn't feel like a Walmart. It just felt like a grocery store, and it was Walmart prices, so it was pretty cheap. So I found myself there quite often, but then it closed.
The last time I went to Walmart, I bought a tie-dye kit so I could tie-dye some shirts that got ruined in the wash.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and I also bought a bag of M&Ms because M&Ms released a new kind. They released fudge brownie. If anyone is thinking about getting them, don't bother. They're not very good.
Fudge brownie?
Yeah, it just tastes like a normal M&M, but the center is more like gooey than a normal M&M. So it's the size of like a peanut M&M.
How does that incorporate the brownie part?
The center is probably supposed to taste like a brownie. I don't know. It just doesn't. They're not very good. I ate them because I paid for them.
I don't know. I haven't had M&Ms in a long time. I guess that could lead us into the episode we lost.
And why haven't you had M&Ms, Eric?
So the episode we lost, we talked about food allergies. We also talked about coronavirus, and I definitely went on a rant that I don't remember, and I definitely don't have strong enough feelings to rant about coronavirus anymore. But we can still talk about food allergies. I am allergic to many things, and it means that I cannot eat many things. I got to the point where the number of allergies I had started going down because I just started grouping more things together. So instead of being allergic to 3 different things, now I just say I'm allergic to the one category that includes those things. But it's,
For example,
well, I think I'm allergic to enough legumes that I'm just allergic to legumes, which includes soy and peanuts and beans and peas and many other things. But it's I think at some point I'm just allergic to legumes. Or I'm allergic to tree nuts as well, so I don't have to list off all of the nuts. I'm just allergic to tree nuts. I also heard,
it's good to know.
When I was working at camp, there was someone who was allergic to nightshades. And I looked through that list and I was like, I wonder if I'm allergic to nightshades. But included in nightshades is tomatoes, and I don't think I'm allergic to tomatoes, because otherwise I would have unpleasant experiences with barbecue sauce, which
Ooh, with barbecue
I don't
sauce.
think I have. I had barbecue sauce today and I felt fine. So, but the thing, so with soy in particular, that's the reason I haven't had M&Ms and many other things, is because soy is in so many things that so many processed things. I should qualify that. So many processed things. And it's in a lot of chocolate because it makes the chocolate look good, and for no other reason than that. The number of things you can make without soy is almost everything. But then it has soy in it anyways. It's like I said, largely processed goods, largely sweets, I guess, sugary stuff. So like I shouldn't be eating it anyways, but then I find replacements.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have been on an up and down weight journey, because I lose the ability to eat some things and then I find things to replace them, and it just goes up and down. Not to mention my quarantine weight gain.
Quarant 20?
I don't think it was 20. I don't know how much it was. I haven't been on a scale for a while. Cuz I don't want to know.
Yeah, we have a scale at work for the dogs, but it hasn't worked in several months. I used to weigh myself on it occasionally, but now I can't. But I don't think I need a scale to confirm that I have indeed gained weight during quarantine.
As have I.
I think my shirts do that enough.
It was that month that I wasn't working and I was just on the couch. And then I also finally today just started running again because I finally got new shoes to run in. So hopefully that will begin to help. But yeah, none of this has anything to do with food allergies, really, but here we are anyways.
Yeah, so as of right now, I do not have any food allergies that I'm aware of. Um, I can't drink orange juice, but that's just because I've had some bad experiences with orange juice.
I
I'm
had
not
a
like
bad
allergic to it.
experience.
I have some sort of lactose sensitivity, but it's fairly easy to work around. Also, I don't care that much. I feel like any lactose intolerant person you'll ever meet does not care that they're lactose intolerant.
I don't think that's true.
Have you ever met a lactose intolerant person?
Yes, many. A lot of times they take Lactaid. At least the people who care more about it.
I think I have met a total of one person who would take Lactaid.
Hmm.
Everyone else just like, yeah, I somewhat avoid it, but if I want a pot of mac and cheese, then I'll make a pot of mac and cheese. It's like, oh, that's why your stomach hurts. Which, I mean, that's what I do too. I'm guilty of that.
Not a mac and cheese fan. I don't know what it is about cheese to that extent on noodles, but it's not my thing.
I have a pot of it right beside me right now. I made it for dinner.
I haven't had dinner because I had first and second breakfast and then a later lunch and then chips. Tortilla chips, what was left in the bag. Because I
Yeah,
make good decisions.
I went to the store a couple days ago and I bought groceries, and I tried to buy 2 packs of bacon, but when I got to the checkout, I scanned it and I actually had 3 packs of bacon. But I was already at the register and I didn't want to walk all the way back to the meat section, so I just bought 3 packs of bacon. So yesterday I made like breakfast tacos with half a pack of bacon. Then tonight I made the other half of one of the packs of bacon and crumbled it into some mac and cheese.
We had bacon yesterday as well at breakfast. I also ate 5 sugar cookies yesterday for lunch. That was lunch. Because Mom bought sugar cookies for us to decorate, and then we hadn't decorated them. So we did it right before we left.
I ate lunch yesterday.
And breakfast was more of a brunch timing. And then an early dinner with Dad.
I took a nap yesterday, so I'm missing part of the day. But I definitely ate dinner. So I made those tacos. They were good. I was on a video call with Emily and I showed her and she was like, "Oh, that looks good." I know.
That's probably what I'll have whenever we get done here. Because that's about the only thing I have in my fridge. The thing with food allergies, when they're extensive and you don't really know how to work around them, and you're also a picky eater, is that you don't eat a large variety of meals. So I eat some version of a taco or quesadilla quite often.
I mean, you don't have a whole lot of other options.
Well, I probably do. I just don't know what they are and don't know how to make them for myself. I also don't go out to eat very much because there are so many different like surprises where soy can be or where something else can be, or they use it as their oil to grease their pans, and it's like, well, great. There was one time last summer I went to a place and I had a chicken breast and a pickle, and that was my dinner.
Hmm. I remember one time we went to um, a breakfast place with you, and you asked what they use on like the grills, and it was soybean oil. And the waiter didn't know what to do and was just like, "Well, we make a mean poached egg." Do you remember that?
It's probably fat gnats.
Yep. And you were just like, "Well, I don't remember what you even ate."
I don't remember either.
It was like you wanted chicken tenders and couldn't have them because they fried them in soybean oil.
I don't remember. But that is my life. It's very exciting when I want a thing and I can just have it. There was this place out in Colorado called Snooze. It's like a breakfast Denver chain type deal. And they had chocolate chip pancakes that I was able to eat, and I was shocked that I could eat the chocolate chips. And they're so good and they're enormous. But I was happy. There was one time when I was working for undisclosed shipping company that I got off work and it was like 9:30. That's roughly the time I would get off work in the morning. And there was one of these places, a Snooze, like just down the road from there. So I decided that this morning I was going to go and eat at this place by myself, get some pancakes, whatever. And I drove up to this place, it's like a Thursday morning, and I was expecting to just like be able to walk in, and there was a line out the door like it was a weekend. And I was like, what is this? So instead, I went to the Sprouts, which is a grocery store, which was right next door, and I bought a package of cupcakes and ate all 4 of the cupcakes in the parking lot. And I figured it was about equivalent to the pancakes I would have eaten.
I mean, you're probably not wrong. But I feel like it's a little bit more socially acceptable to eat pancakes instead of cupcakes for a meal.
And that's an example of a thing I found where I could work around not being able to eat desserts, was some of the cupcakes from Sprouts. I probably also got a liter of chocolate milk to go with it. But when I was working at undisclosed shipping company, it was a little more physically acceptable for me because I burned so many calories at that job. And I lost a lot of weight, which now somehow has found its way back onto my body.
Yeah, like I said, as far as I know, I don't have any food allergies. I mean, I have a lactose sensitivity. I don't know if I'd go all the way to say intolerance. But I am allergic to just like the general outdoors and also dust mites.
Yep, me too. I'm supposed to vacuum every day. And I have vacuumed twice this year. Maybe 3 times. And it's June.
Yeah, when I first went to the allergy doctor, he just prescribed me I think he prescribed me two drugs and then was like, "Would you use a nasal spray?" And I said, "No." And then a couple weeks later, I tried to make another appointment with him, but he wasn't available. So I went to a nurse practitioner. I was like, "Hey, these allergy drugs, like they're fine, but they're not working great." And then she prescribed the allergy spray like the nasal spray that I didn't want. Told me to shower twice a day, every single day. Um, Vacuum every 2 to 3 days, wash my sheets every 2 to 3 days, and then get allergy shots, which I didn't want. And I had said multiple times to multiple people that I did not want. So here I am 2 years later, dealing with my nasal spray and my two other drugs.
Sounds similar to me, except I don't have. Are those prescription?
Yeah, I'm
Hmm.
on.
I don't have prescription ones. I have over the counter ones.
Yeah, I used to just take Zyrtec, which worked fine. And the reason I went to go see the doctor again was I was like, when I first got prescribed the drugs, I was like, the Zyrtec worked just as fine. And it was cheaper, so I didn't understand why I was taking more things, more expensive things, if they work about the same.
I feel like that's your decision.
Well, I mean, they're the medical professionals.
But if you're giving them input as well as to what's working and what's not, and if something's not working or something else works just as well, I think you could go with that. I jumped between multiple allergy medications in my younger years and landed on Allegra and what's the spray? Nasacort, the one with the blue cap. And
Yeah, I'm just at the point where, like, the drugs work fine. Mom pays for them because I'm on mom's insurance.
not
So
forever. That's my life.
I still
Yay.
got a couple years.
A couple you got a while. I've been
I
on my
do.
own for a while. Oh, to not have to pay for my medical insurance. But I was able to go to the dentist this week. Yay me.
Oh, I haven't been to the dentist in several years. My teeth are fine.
I hadn't been in at least 4 years before the last time I went in December. And the I think it was the what's it, the teeth cleaner? What's the actual term for that?
Hygienist?
Yeah. So the hygienist is like, for being 4 years, your teeth aren't that bad, but that doesn't mean you can go 4 years again. And then he made me an appointment, which I went to earlier this week. And then he made me another appointment. Also, another story from the dentist this past week. So I'm sitting in the chair, and there's like blinds that are like semi-transparent that you can see through into the parking lot. And there's my car parked next to a motorcycle. And the guy's like, "Did you drive in on that motorcycle?" I was like, "No, I'm in the Focus right next to it." And then there was a pause, and he's like, "We'll tell people you came in on the motorcycle." And then right as my appointment was wrapping up, the actual owner of the motorcycle got on, and he's like, "Man, someone's taking your ride." I was like, "Yeah, I better go stop him." And then took 2 tries to get the Focus to start.
I just spent
Ka-ching!
dollars on car repairs.
Yeah, I heard that as well. That it was less than you were expecting.
It was. They quoted me 900. Then when I got my bill, it was not that much. And then I also got a student discount.
Oh, that's nice.
I am a fan of student discounts.
Yep, that's one of the benefits of being in school. That'll that'll lead into those student loans. Paying like when I was at the chiropractor, paying $25 instead of $33. That $8 discount is going to help tremendously.
Yeah, there's only at the Culvers and Ames they have a student discount. I've never been to another Culvers where they have like advertised a student discount. So you go and buy your $4 ice cream get 40 cents off, but that's 40 cents.
It is. Only have to get that to happen a million times. I don't even want to know. I'm not going to do the math. But then you got to spend all that money on ice cream.
I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Technically, it's custard.
Well,
It's a little less intense on my digestive system.
yeah, but it's a similar concept. In 2014, my first year in Denver, the Minnesota Wild, our professional hockey team, got into the playoffs and they were playing the Colorado Avalanche. And I wanted to go to a game. And the series ended up going to the last game, Game 7, and it was in Denver. And I bought a ticket for 60-something dollars. And then as a way to offset that cost, I stopped buying ice cream. And that covered half of that ticket. So for the month of May, I didn't buy any ice cream until May 31st, and then I figured I was close enough.
It's a lot of ice cream.
But that's like, what would that have been like? One of those half-gallon deals once every couple days. Plus, I was paying for Blue Bell, which was like $5 a pop. But now I can't have that because of food allergies.
Yeah,
it all comes back to food allergies.
When I went to the store to buy groceries, I spent probably 3 minutes in the ice cream aisle deciding what I wanted. I'm still not sure if I'm satisfied with my choice, but I just needed to buy something and get myself out of the store.
Yep. But now I'm on a mission now that I'm able to run again and trying to drop the weight again. No more sugar. So yesterday was the last ice cream I planned to have for a while. We'll see how it goes.
I mean, you at least... I know a lot of people your age get a lot of extra weight from, like, alcohol. You don't have that problem, so at least that's one thing you don't have to worry about.
That is correct.
You don't drink.
I just pound the ice cream.
There's an episode of Parks and Rec after Chris Pratt got buff for superhero movies. He comes back to Parks and Rec and everyone's like, how'd you lose so much weight? And they just played it off as he stopped drinking beer and lost like 60 pounds.
That is a thing. Not for me, but for people. It's all the sugars. Sugar, sugar, sugar. I definitely have a sweet tooth. One of I think the food, if I had to pick one food item that I miss the most, it's probably Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
Why?
Because I love them.
I don't know. There was someone who lived with us for like a month when he had a gap in his leases. And at the end of the time, he gave us all like parting gifts to thank us. He was like, I didn't really know what you wanted, so I got you some Reese's Cups. Because everyone likes Reese's Cups. I was like, thanks! I don't really like them that much. I mean, I still ate them, but...
I also miss donuts. I know that you can...
You made donuts once.
Yep, one time. The only time I've had a donut that I wasn't allergic to since I was diagnosed with my soy allergy was one I made for myself. And that is one example of many examples of how I know that foods don't need to have soy in them. Because I made it for myself, and it tasted like oil because I don't know. It was the first attempt at doing it, and it just tasted like the oil we fried them in. We successfully made, 6 or 8 out of 24 attempts?
I made one.
The one shaped like Minnesota.
Yep, I have a picture of it somewhere.
It was it's hard to do when you just are bringing oil to like in a frying pan or a pot or whatever instead of a deep fryer.
And I don't think we had like a thermometer, did we?
Nope.
Yeah, that's the problem. If you ever want to fry something, you should probably know how hot the oil is.
Yep. So we burned many donuts. But the ones we made were good. And then you just cover them in sugar. And that kind of cuts the oil taste down.
Sugar and fat.
It was interesting that that recipe, or however we did it, like they came out like old fashioned donuts, and I was like, huh, makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, because it wasn't like a raised donut. It
Yeah,
was like a cake donut, which I mean are not the best, not the best types of donuts, but they're probably one of the easier ones to make at home.
I like cake donuts versus raised. I would prefer a cake to a raised because there's more donut inside of the thing. I miss Cub donuts. Cub donuts and Cub cookies. Again, all these things are things that I shouldn't be eating in the first place, anyways, but I miss them. And I found ways to replace them.
Yeah, when I went to the store, I started in the produce section and I got all this produce. I was like, huh, looking at all this produce, like I don't understand why I'm so overweight. Then the snacks that I bought like 3 boxes of Cheez-Its. It's like, oh, that's why.
That used to be my life, too. Can't have those anymore.
Oh, the white cheddar ones are so good.
No, I was a
They're
straight up.
they're currently my favorite snack.
Yeah,
But
fine.
when I was standing in Hy-Vee, I was like, wow, these kind of look expensive. So
That's
I
because you bought
didn't
them at
buy them.
Hy-Vee.
I didn't buy them, and then I went to Target and bought them and some wine. The bargain that I
Again.
made myself. The bargain that I made myself, I was standing in Target looking at Cheez Its, and I was like, I want 3 boxes of Cheez Its. And I told myself, you can buy 3 boxes of Cheez Its, or you can buy 2 boxes of Cheez Its and a bottle of wine. So I bought 2 boxes of Cheez Its. Then I found some cheap wine, so I bought 2 bottles of it instead of just one. And it's probably going to be really bad because each bottle was only $5. Now I'm kind of afraid to open it.
There was one time when I was working the first church I worked at in Denver. There were some volunteers who were like buying stuff for a potluck type thing, and they were looking for wine. And the one guy, I heard this story secondhand from my boss who was on the phone with them. The guy who was on the phone with my boss is like 100% Italian heritage, and he was trying his best to keep it together as the other guy was looking for the cheapest boxed wine they could find.
Hmm. Boxed wine is, I guess, engineering marvel. It's cheap for a reason. It's not good. If you're looking for a lot of wine for really cheap, I guess.
That was the goal. I am also pretty sure that's what our communion wine was from a box.
I mean, I guess I can't. I don't like a lot of wine that's probably like good quality. I think a wine connoisseur would be disgusted by what I choose to drink.
Yeah, I'm not that into grapes, so I think if I did drink wine, wouldn't be my thing.
Dad bought me a bottle for my birthday, and I told him that I liked wine that was sweet, white, and sparkling. And the wine that he bought was sweet and white, but it wasn't sparkling, and I tried drinking it. I was like, wow, I guess I don't really like wine all that much unless it is specifically sparkling.
You just like pop with alcohol. How do you feel about
I
seltzers? I don't
guess.
even know what that is.
Oh, no. No. I do not enjoy seltzers. When we went over to Emily's once, she gave me a seltzer. Not good. Well, when I went home for her birthday bonfire, she gave me just like a seltzer water, like a LaCroix or something.
Yeah, it
Took
was
like one sip. It was not good.
bubbly.
Bubbly.
I'm personally a fan of the sparkling ice. I was told by my dentist that I need to cut back on the sparkling water.
I mean, those are good. I
It's
don't
because there's more
understand why the.
flavor.
Yeah, they're so much better than sparkling water or seltzers.
I was at a restaurant one time a couple years ago that had one of those like self-serve pop, like fountain drink things, And I just had a water glass because I don't drink pop either. Because I made a commitment to myself 14 years ago, and I'm still going strong. Anyways, I went up to the thing looking for the water, like no water, no water, not seeing the water, and then I finally find the little tab, and I push it, and it comes out and it's soda water. And I was like, well, I guess if this is all they have, I'll go for it. Go back to the table, take one drink, and I know that I'm not going to make it through the rest of the glass. And the people I'm sitting with can tell that I was not a fan of what I had in my cup. And then they pointed to a different fountain drink station that had the normal water. And I was like, it would have been great to know beforehand that that was over there, and I didn't have the experience that I had instead.
Yeah, there was one day in Italy after we had class every morning from 9 until 1, and then we were free the rest of the day. So after class, someone was like, "Oh, I really want to check out this restaurant." So it was like 80 degrees. We walked like a mile and a half to this restaurant, and I was so thirsty. And you had to pay for water at every restaurant we went to in Italy. So they were like, "Well, let's get some sparkling water so it feels like we're getting our money's worth." And I was so thirsty because we had walked like a mile and a half and it was 80 degrees outside. And I couldn't even get through like one wine glass of the water. It's just like, I can't drink this.
Had to be fancy. I've only been to Europe once. It was in Amsterdam, and the only restaurant we went to that had free water was a fondue place, which was like just a couple days before we left.
None of the restaurants in Italy would give us free water, but we did get free water at like a burger place in Budapest when we went on a weekend trip. So the only free water I got in Italy, or on my Italy trip, was in a different country.
There was we went on a trip. So this was a study abroad trip, J term for context for people. So it's just like a 3.5 week trip. We're in Amsterdam, staying in Amsterdam the whole time. But we did a little day trip up to The Hague and maybe Harlem or something like that. I don't remember. Just kind of out into the countryside a little bit. And we're on the train. And in the train station, you'd had to pay like, what, I don't know what the cents are called in euro, if they're just euro cents or what, but you had to pay half a euro. We'll say it that way. You had to pay half a euro to go into the bathroom. So everyone like saw this, whatever. We get on the train, and the conductor is coming through and showing people, or like asking for tickets or whatever. And so we like show them our tickets, and one of our profs had a ticket thing where she was supposed to go to some place back at the train station because she didn't have the right information on the ticket, and so she was supposed to get it updated or whatever. But they like let it slide because of she was an American on the train, whatever, didn't know what she was doing. And so I'm sitting next to one of the girls on our trip, and she's across the aisle from her roommate. So I'm listening to their conversation after this happens, like going back and forth about how the prof could have been kicked off the train because she didn't have the right ticket. And then one of the girls goes, "Yeah, and you have to pay 50 cents to go to the bathroom too." And I'm like, yeah, let's keep things in perspective here. And then those girls on this same trip up to The Hague, we go to, so the International Peace Palace is in The Hague. It houses the International Criminal Court, which is where like war criminals are tried for their crimes against humanity. And they both have pepper spray with them, which they brought in case they got into some sort of an altercation in Amsterdam. They brought this from the United States to the Netherlands. We go through security at the International Peace Palace, and we find out that carrying pepper spray with you is like carrying an unlicensed firearm. It is the same level of crime. So luckily, they just confiscated the pepper spray and didn't do anything else. But it would have been amazing to see this happen where they get... Like, who would have thought in this country that's not a thing? And, like, police are tear gassing people, like, all around the country at this point. But, like, to go into Amsterdam at the International Peace Palace and bring in pepper spray only to find out that it's like carrying an unregistered firearm.
Yeah, one of my old roommates, one of her friends, told a story that one time he was. I want to say Rome. He was in Rome. He was playing in like a carnival game or something, and the prize that he won was an airsoft gun. But like they didn't tell him that carrying like having an airsoft gun is the same thing as having like a normal gun, and so he was like blackout drunk carrying this airsoft gun that he won at a carnival in a foreign country on like a study abroad. He got arrested for possession of a firearm and like public intoxication.
Oh man.
Well, you should know something about the places you're going to if you're going on vacation.
Indeed. I kind of, whenever the COVID stuff finally passes, I want to go to London because
Oh, I've been
the
there.
soccer team I cheer for is in the process of building a new stadium, and I want to go see a game at the new stadium.
We went to a soccer game when we were in London and it was miserable.
Yeah, you texted me. You saw QPR play somebody. I don't remember.
I couldn't tell you anything about it, like the teams. We stayed for the first half and we were supposed to stay for the whole thing because it was a group game or a group activity. But it was like 30 degrees and none of us had packed full on winter gear. So our professor was like, "Yeah, you can leave." Went to a diner and got some hot chocolate.
That's one of the things I wish I'd done in Amsterdam. Their team, Ajax, had a game while we were there. And like I didn't realize that soccer is a winter sport there because it's a summer sport here. It's like, oh, we could have gone to see their soccer team play. Or, excuse me, their football club.
When we were in Italy, they were getting ready for some big, like, youth soccer contest or something. We didn't really understand what was happening, but there were just, like, soccer balls popping up in the city.
What year
Like,
were you there?
gigantic posters. Um, last year.
Okay. Then I don't know. It's probably an Italian thing then. Weren't you there in June?
Yeah. May, June.
Yeah, because that's after their season should have been over, so or their professional season. I couldn't tell you. I don't know very much about all the different leagues across Europe. I just know a
I don't
little
know.
bit about the English one. They just came back. They're playing again their top two tiers, the Premier League and the Championship. And then the
If you
team.
ever go to London, you could go to M&M World and not eat anything because you're allergic to it all.
That sounds like fun.
I made people in my group go when we went to London. It was a good experience. And I ate too many M&Ms and couldn't eat M&Ms for like a year afterwards without getting sick.
Is that a 3-story building?
Um, it is at least 3 stories,
Oh, I
yeah.
feel like some comedian has a joke about that specific M&M store. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I made people go with me. Then I did a build your own bag of M&Ms. So they had like a wall with the dispensers, and each dispenser was its own color, so you could choose the colors that you wanted. So I got like silver, orange, and blue. And did not realize how many M&Ms I had until I started eating them.
You didn't know when you paid for them, they didn't weigh them?
Oh, they did.
You
I
have
paid a
7
lot
pounds
of
of
money.
M&Ms. It will cost more than
Oh, I
7
wonder if
pounds.
I have. I maybe deleted the note with how much money I spent. I wonder if I can find it. I spent so much money there. But I was already at the checkout. I was like, well, I guess I'm buying them. Seems to be a
I
common
already pulled them out of the
theme in my
dispenser.
life.
Can you put these
Yeah,
back
just
into
shove
dispenser
them back
for me,
in.
please? I'm no longer interested in this purchase.
I think I deleted it because I did have a list. Oh, did I? I maybe paid for it with my credit card. Or not my credit card, my debit card.
You
Might be able to find the transaction with Wells Fargo.
only have to go back however many years.
2.5 years.
Just wait here while you click through. I think the web pages go back about a month, depending on how much you've bought. So I'll just sit here and wait for you to go through 30 web pages.
I mean, you can talk about something.
Are you actually going to do this?
We're going to see.
Oh my god.
See if I can find it.
Oh, man. Okay. Great.
I mean, there is a chance that I paid for it in cash, though, so I might not be able to find it.
Yep. There have been a couple times where I entertained the possibility of going to London. One time was... Wow, I can hear that.
Those are my downstairs neighbors. They just make that sound.
Well, anyways, one time was Emily wanted to go see a friend of hers who was studying abroad and asked me if I wanted to go, but the plane ticket was much too expensive for what I was capable of buying, which was also the reason I didn't go the other time, which was when the Vikings played a football game in England somewhere. They played against the Steelers, and the tickets to the game were only like £35, but then the plane ticket was like $900. It's like, well...
Can you still hear them screaming?
A little bit, yeah.
Every single day.
Are you still looking?
Yeah, Wells Fargo is only letting me go back to March.
You can't look any earlier than March?
There's gotta be a way to do it. There's gotta be a way to look past March.
I don't know.
Because I could search for it, but I don't know what the actual transaction would be. Oh, maybe I can narrow my range like this. Date range.
Just search purchases made in England.
Would have been... Oh, yep, doesn't let me go back that far.
I need to get a passport before that happens, though, if I were to go. Mine expires this year. Actually, technically, they probably wouldn't let me leave, because I think they don't let you use it within 6 months of it expiring.
Correct.
And I think
That's why I had to get a new one before I left for Italy.
Because I went to Amsterdam in 2011 in January, so I would have gotten the passport sometime in that semester before. So we're definitely within that 6 months. That's how I got to Canada a couple years ago. Was with that passport. It was much easier to get into Canada than it was to get back in the United States. The Canadian guy at the border asked us 4 questions and we were on our way, and the American searched my car. Thanks, America.
When I went to Spain with band, there was, we had to go through customs or whatever. And in Spanish, when they ask how old you are, they ask, how many years do you have? Like, that's the direct translation to English. And so one of my friends on the trip, the customs agent just asked her, how many years? And she was just like, I don't know what you're asking me. Way to look suspicious. How many years? I don't know.
I mean, there is indeed a language barrier. That happened when I went to Haiti.
Oh, here we go. I found the note that I had.
Great.
I spent 18 pounds on M&Ms. It's like
probably like
$25.
3 pounds of M&Ms. Let's assume 6 pounds per pound. That's not confusing at all.
Pounds to dollars.
We also have to do it for 3 years ago. Is this pre or post Brexit? The decision.
post.
Okay, then I guess it won't be too much different.
Yeah, so I spent like $22 on M&Ms on our second day in London.
Oh, man. Wow.
Who lets me travel?
Iowa State University.
I mean, at least everyone else on that trip was just like buying alcohol because everyone was like 19 and like, oh, I can't drink in the States, but I can drink here. And there I was with 3 pounds of M&Ms.
Yeah. There were people who bought alcohol on my trips as well, but they should not have been, according to the covenant they signed. When we got back from Guatemala, we got a nasty email from the school about things that happened on our trip in Guatemala. And I was like reading this email and thinking to myself, if you knew these things were happening, why didn't they get kicked off the trip? Because, like, that was a thing that could happen. And instead, we get back and you blame the people who didn't say anything for not saying anything.
Yeah, when I got accepted to my Italy study abroad, we had to have a group discussion about how you couldn't get drunk in Italy because the year before me on that trip, there were students who got drunk the very first night, pooped in a stairwell, and then got kicked out of their apartment.
Oh, man. We don't have a very healthy relationship with alcohol in this country. It's part of why I don't drink. It's actually probably the majority of why I don't drink. Because I saw too many people abuse alcohol. I was just like, this doesn't even look fun.
Yeah, someone I know went to a party, got way too drunk to drive, so just spent the night, and the party host just kind of let her be. And in the morning, they woke up to their couch moved to a different part of their living room because she, like, threw up on the carpet and then tried to cover it up with the couch in a drunken state. So the party host woke up and sent everyone a snap, just like, what happened to my couch?
Yeah, sounds like fun.
I mean, she thinks she had a great time.
But if you don't remember, how do you know?
I don't entirely know what's great about getting drunk, throwing up on the floor, and then moving a couch, but to each their own.
Yeah. I do not understand. I think that was a successful conversation about food allergies. It's like last week when our topic was about success, and we talked about success on and off throughout the podcast, but definitely not for the entire hour's worth of podcast. Maybe for like 15 minutes.
My Target trip,
which we did again. This has been your Target trip with Eric and Elena. I got a new blister, and I was thinking about that. It's because I switched phone cases briefly. Because I was waiting for a new driver's license, and so I just had the paper license. I was like, well, this doesn't fit in my phone case wallet. I'm going to need to carry my actual wallet. But I developed a new...
Yeah, I got my new license
blister
in the mail.
It only took 10 days for mine to come. Hey everybody, my name's Eric.
And I'm Elena.
And we are the co-hosts of the 2 out of 3 podcast.
Yep.
And we've come back together today to talk to you guys about our Patreon page.
Anyone who's familiar with the podcasting world knows that podcasts are mostly self-funded productions. Patreon is a way for us to connect with patrons who will help fund our productions with us.
So if you're watching this video on Patreon, you're already here, so go ahead and take a look around. If not, there are 2 different ways you can find us. You can go either to patreon.com/2 out of 3 podcast or to 2out of3podcast.com. That's patreon.com/2 out of 3 podcast or 2 out of 3 podcast.com. Now back to the show.
Yep.
I'm supposed to be doing a prayer thing tonight with Emily, and she said she would send me the link for the call, but she hasn't sent it to me. It's supposed to happen in half an hour. Praying about the racial injustices and goings on at the moment. Things just keep on moving with that stuff. Or I should say, things seem to not find a way to not move on. I don't know if you know, but Minnesota, the legislature was in special session because the governor extended his emergency powers for another month for the corona stuff. And as a part of this special session, they were trying to pass a police reform bill along with a couple other things. And in the end, nothing happened. It was very disappointing.
I mean, that sounds about right.
And there was blame being passed between parties instead of getting something done. I I didn't realize that the legislature was in special session because as far as I know Minnesota's legislative season goes from January to May and then they're done for the year unless they didn't pass a budget and then there's a special session for the budget immediately following the normal session. But now with the emergency powers stuff, as soon as the governor extends his powers, the emergency stuff, then they have a special session immediately to say whether that's acceptable or not. But with everything that's been happening in our state, they tried passing a criminal justice bill. And they also tried passing funding or passing a bill to figure out how they were going to spend the money the state got for COVID-19 stuff. They tried figuring out how they were going to pass a bill for infrastructure because we got money from the federal government for that. And everything went nowhere. But anyways, the point of me saying I didn't know was that when I found out, then I emailed my state representative and state senator. And they
I don't even know who those people are.
I didn't either until I looked them up. Which, I also just, when I got my new license, I got registered to vote here instead of up north. So I'm officially a registered voter down here. Anyways, both of them actually emailed me back, which was sort of surprising. One of them, I think, was just a form letter that he was sending to everyone, the senator. But then the state rep's email, her first email looked like it was an actual response to my thing. And then she sent out a normal political type email, mass email list type email. And it was about how the things didn't happen in the session and why they didn't happen and why it was the other side's fault. But she sent the email before the session was over, and I was not very happy that it looked like they were admitting defeat before they actually adjourned the session. Because I got the email at 10, and I thought they were going to end the night at midnight, but I think it ended up going until 6 the next morning. It was just why are you sending the email before the session is done? And then the things that she said, that these are the things from the Democrats' bill that are why we couldn't agree on things. It's from what I heard from local news media, those are things that they were willing to negotiate or to remove to get the bill to pass. So, I don't know. In the end, we don't have a criminal justice reform bill or a police reform bill. And don't know how things are going to change.
Welcome to a two-party system.
Yep. So it's frustrating. And then I got to have some fun conversations about race in the United States this weekend.
I bet. I was on the phone with Grandma recently. We were FaceTiming. And Grandpa was there. I was like, oh, hi, Grandpa. He was like, oh, you been to any protests recently? I said, yep. He was like, oh, all of them in favor of the police, right? I was like, uh.
Not quite. Which, like, even there, that's not even necessarily the right way to frame that. Ugh. I guess this could be the rant to replace the coronavirus rant if I wanted to go there, which I don't. Don't think ranting is going to help anything. At the same time, the place where we should be able to fix these things in legislation also is not working. Hooray us. This is part of why I stopped trying to find a job doing political advocacy, because it seems like the legislature at the state level and at the national level is behind where the citizenry is, like always.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the public support to get things done right now, but they're not gonna.
Nope. Our political system is a mess.
And not just that, there are issues other places. So right before we got on talking to each other here, I was watching the NASCAR race, which got pushed to today because there was rain yesterday in Alabama. But NASCAR right now in their top series has one black driver. And yesterday, at some point during the day, a noose was discovered in his garage stall. Which is fantastic because he's the person who has been helping NASCAR push through some reforms over the last month, including a Confederate flag ban, which there were also demonstrations about that apparently in Alabama yesterday. Someone flew a plane pulling a banner that had the Confederate flag and defund NASCAR on it. It's like great. But it's like the stuff isn't in history. This stuff is now. These things are still happening.
Yep, you're living through a chapter in a textbook.
I thought that, what is it, 3 years ago now when Philando Castile was killed, and that was the first time that a protest went onto the highway. And I was like, this is like the thing when like it'll be written about in books. And now that's just like a normal way to protest because nothing has changed.
Mm-hmm.
And then thousands of people almost got run over 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever.
Yeah, there were some protesters in Des Moines. Um, they were demonstrating at a Hy-Vee because of some things that I didn't fully look into. There was just like a pickup truck who tried to run through the crowd of people.
Great.
Even if you don't agree with them, you can disagree without literally running them over with a several ton vehicle.
Should probably tell the police that they can also do that or not do that. And then, like, even with legislation, all we're doing right now is addressing like the back end issue. We're not addressing front end issues of how we don't end up in this place in the first place. There are a lot of other foundational things that we can change that need to change. Before we get people killing people.
Yeah, there was a shooting in Uptown this weekend.
There have been shootings all over the place. There are apparently almost 100 people who had gunshot wounds in Chicago this weekend. With like 16 deaths or something like that.
I think in Uptown there were 12 people shot and one died.
Yeah, and there were shootings on the north side too.
Something's gonna happen. I don't know what.
And
but
people don't trust the police right now either. The police are getting hassled when they're trying to respond to stuff in Minneapolis. And cops are quitting because of low morale.
And I can tell you that we're building up to something, but I'm not sure what it
Yeah,
is.
hopefully it's positive. I've like for the last at least month. How long has it been? It hasn't even been a month. We're 3 days away from this being a month. But like for the last roughly month, all I've been able to like consume is stuff related to race and trying to change things. So I've made a playlist on YouTube. I could look at it to give you specifics, but it's probably hours and hours long just of stuff related to race in America. Here, race in America, 57 videos. It doesn't say a time, but there's got to be. If there isn't a day's worth of content on here, I might be a little surprised. But anyways, but it's just like this is all stuff that's happened before. It's like repeating itself. I'm in a group going through a webinar right now about race, and one of the things the webinar person was talking about, the first episode was it's going to help you identify, among other things, identify patterns in history. And it's like so true. I read a book. It's like the first book in a history of the civil rights era. I read it like 6 years ago or 5 years ago now. But just like things that were happening in the 50s and 60s are things that are happening now, especially with regards to policing. And then I read a book that was published 30 years ago, and things that were happening 30 years ago are things that are happening now. And it's like, can we figure out that there are, like, these are patterns? Like, these aren't one-off incidents. These aren't thousands of one-off incidents. I guess we got into the rant.
Yeah, I mean, that can be a whole different episode in and of itself.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like we've touched on several topics that could be their own one episode.
Yeah. Even our response to the shooting, or not the shooting, the death itself, choking.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching a video of a podcast where the guys were talking about how crazy it is that they're trying to ban chokeholds, because if you know how to do it, then it's like the only way to like subdue a person. But then I watched another video from the same recording where one of the guys was like, it's called rolling in jiu-jitsu when you're like sparring with another person. But he said he was rolling with another guy and just like accidentally fractured his neck in a chokehold. It's like, you're a person who knows how to do a chokehold and you accidentally fractured a person's neck. But then you're also saying that it's ridiculous that because people who know how to use chokeholds, it's safe. Like, demonstrably, no, it's not. Oh my goodness. And that's just like the least of our worries right now, compared to the multitude of other issues we need to address.
Mm-hmm. It's a long road of change ahead.
Hopefully. It's going to be a fight. Because even now, with the focus on policing and like the public will to actually get change done there, as soon as this passes, or doesn't, and it like fades from the public consciousness, there are still other things that need to be addressed that are going to continue to be a fight to address.
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening to Brian Stevenson lectures recently, or like talks he's given. Do you know who Brian Stevenson is?
Nope.
Have you heard of Just Mercy, the movie or the book?
Emily mentioned it at one point.
Yep. So that is based off of him, Brian Stevenson. So he's an attorney working out of Alabama. He works with death row inmates, trying to help exonerate or reduce sentences. And he's been doing that since the 90s, or the late 80s. Anyways, since he published the book, he's been giving talks quite frequently, or quite well, I guess. Anyways, some of his more recent talks, he's talked about how it seems like people think of the civil rights era as like a 3-day carnival, where on the first day, Rosa Parks didn't give up her seat on the bus. And then on the second day, Martin Luther King led a march on Washington. And then on the third day, we changed all the laws. And it's like, that's not even remotely the way this worked.
Yeah, the bus boycott was like
The boycott was in
months
55.
long.
It was a year long, a little over a year long. And then, again, having read the history of the civil rights movement that I did, it goes from 1954 to 1963. Like, that's the period of time it focuses on. It is 800 pages of one thing being accomplished in 9 years, and it was the boycott. The bus boycott was like the one thing that changed things. And then until 1963, they just took L after L after L in trying to get things changed. And then it wasn't until 64 that legislation started to get pushed through. So that's when you get the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. And then in 68, after Martin Luther King was assassinated, that's when the Housing Act was passed, that you can't discriminate in housing anymore. And then slowly, that was like the last major civil rights legislation victory. And slowly, things have slowly been walked back from those pieces of legislation over the last, how long ago was 68? 52 years. Hooray us. Yep. But it's over because Rosa Parks didn't give up her seat. And even that story, we don't even remember how that story works. People are like, Rosa Parks sat at the front of the bus and wouldn't give up her seat. No, she sat at the front of the colored section of the bus and was told to give up her seat for a white person, because when the front white section was full, then white people had a right to sit in the colored section. So that is what happened with that.
Yeah, she also wasn't, like, it was pre-planned. Like, she wasn't the first person to do it.
It worked with her because she was, like, quote unquote clean. Like, the first person who they were attempting to, or who they thought about using as like the person to push forward on this issue, was pregnant out of wedlock, I think. And so they decided that they couldn't use her as like the figurehead because there would be questions brought on about her, like, as a person. But with Rosa Parks, that wasn't the case. And so it wasn't necessarily a pre-planned event, like this is what you're going to do on this day, but it was... Mm-hmm. It was, she was working for the NAACP, I think, so there was knowledge that this was a thing people were looking to do.
Yeah, it was thought out in some sense.
So it wasn't planned, but it also was not unexpected.
Correct.
And then it launched a year-long boycott. I even think about right now, like, how police responded to those protests. And, like, their response was what changed national sentiment, I guess, about getting things changed. Because, like, the protest organizers at the time knew when cameras would be rolling, because now everyone has cameras, but obviously back then there were 3 channels. So, like, whenever there would be news coverage, they knew when it was going to happen. And they also started using kids in their protesting. And the response to the kids was the same as the response to the adults. And so those were the things that started shifting sentiment. Like, I saw an article recently, I think from an Australian news source, but that, like, Americans have unwittingly, like, documented the largest amount of police brutality in history over the last month, just with the number of people filming all the responses to the protests.
Mm-hmm. There's a Twitter thread I found of police escalating protests, and it's like,
Yeah, there's a
I
Reddit
think
thread
now
too.
it's over 600 videos from all over the country
It's crazy.
of protests that were peaceful, but then cops intervened aggressively.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, something's coming.
Yeah, we're gonna need a different president.
We're
Which
gonna need a lot more than just
even
that.
then, I guess we'll lay our cards on the table here if you haven't already seen our video from 4 years ago that we're not the biggest Trump fans in the world. But like Biden introduced a bunch of the legislation that was the tough on crime stuff.
Yeah, I do not support Joe Biden.
I knew 4 years ago that I didn't like either of the candidates, but that there would be more work to be done if Trump was elected than if Hillary was elected. And it's going to end up being the same thing this year. I hope there's a
Yeah,
good
I
third
didn't
party
have the
candidate.
option to vote. What?
I hope there's a good third party candidate.
Howie Hawkins is going to be the Green Party candidate. I don't know if there's a Libertarian one yet.
I don't know who that is. Is
I follow him on Twitter.
Tiger King guy running?
I have absolutely no idea.
What about the rent is too damn high guy? Can we get that guy to run?
I think we get the guy, he like wears a boot on his head and has promised a pony to every citizen. Oh, my phone just died.
She's gone.
Well, I'll continue that story. There is a guy who's run every 4 years since like the 90s who puts a boot on his head and promises like a unicorn to every not a unicorn, a pony to every citizen. Like he continues to run and not get elected cuz I don't know what his actual platform is, but he's not what people would call a serious candidate. Um Eric's now trying to call me on my laptop. Yeah, sorry, bud. I'll finish this up myself. Thanks everyone for listening. This has been the 2 out of 3 podcast with Eric and Elena Beck. This was supposed to be a discussion on allergies, and we turned into racial justice. If anyone is more interested on these topics, Eric has a degree in something racial justice related. I am working towards a degree in women's studies, which isn't specifically racial justice, but it does have aspects of racial justice. We both have background knowledge of movements, civil rights movements in this country. If anyone has any questions, I'm sure we'd be happy to answer them. Well, unless they're stupid. If you ask me, like, how to shave a horse, I don't know the answer to that. I think we're going to end it there before I go crazy.